Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Islamic Audiobooks collection. I will be reading Stories of the Prophets by Ibn Kathir, which we downloaded from kalamullah.com. Let's read. Page 118, Part 4, Prophet Moses and Aaron, peace be upon them. The Plagues of Egypt. Moses repeated his demand that Pharaoh release the children of Israel from slavery. In response, Pharaoh called his subjects, including the children of Israel, to a huge gathering where he reminded them that he was their Lord and provided all their needs. Moses, he said, had no gold, amulets, nor angels following him. He was just a poor man. Being a people who had been oppressed for a very long time, they lacked vision. Their judgment was limited to what they could see in the material world. They regarded their ruler to be wealthy and able to provide all their worldly needs. In ignorance, they obeyed Pharaoh and ignored Moses' call. Egypt suffers a drought and a flood. Allah commanded Moses to warn Pharaoh of a punishment in this world for his faithlessness and his persecution of the children of Israel. As a portent of the punishment which Allah would mete out, the Nile did not flood its banks to soak the dry land as it normally did. As a result, crops failed, leading to famine. However, Pharaoh remained arrogant, so Allah caused a huge flood which devastated the land. Egypt's crops are destroyed by locusts. As often as they were troubled grievously, they appealed to Moses thus: "O Moses, invoke your Lord for us because of his promise to you. If you will remove the punishment from us, we indeed shall believe in you, and we shall let the children of Israel go with you." Qur'an 7 verse 134. Moses prayed to his Lord, and he relieved the suffering caused by the flood. The surging water ceased and withdrew from the land, and it became cultivatable. But when Moses bade them to fulfill their promise to release the children of Israel, they did not respond. Then Allah sent swarms of locusts which ate whatever crops they had grown. The people hurried to Moses, asking him to invoke Allah to remove this affliction and promising they would send the children of Israel with him this time. The locusts departed, but they did not fulfill their promise. Egypt becomes infested with lice. Then another sign came, the sign of lice, which spread amongst the Egyptians, carrying diseases. Their refuge to Moses and their promise to him was repeated. His prayer to Allah was repeated, and so too their breach of promise, as usual. Egypt becomes infested with frogs. A sign of frogs was revealed. The land suddenly filled with frogs. They jumped on the food of the Egyptians, sharing their houses, and distressed them greatly. The Egyptians went to Moses again, promising him to release the children of Israel. He prayed to his Lord, and Allah relieved them of the problem of the frogs. But they again broke their promise. Nile's water was changed to blood. Then the last sign was revealed, the sign of blood. The Nile's water was changed into blood. When Moses and his people drank the water, it was for them ordinary water. However, if any Egyptian filled his cup with the water, he discovered his cup full of blood. They hurried to Moses as usual, but as soon as everything returned to normal, they turned their backs on Allah. Allah's punishments on the disbelievers, Qur'anic. Almighty Allah said, "And indeed we punished the people of Pharaoh with years of drought and shortness of fruits, crops, etc., that they might remember, take heed. But whenever good came to them, they said, 'Ours is this,' and evil at them, they ascribed it to evil omens connected with Moses and those with him. Be informed, verily, their evil omens are with Allah, but most of them know not. They said to Moses, whatever ayat, proofs, evidences, verses, lessons, signs, revelations, etc., you may bring to us to work therewith your sorcery on us, we shall never believe in you. So we sent on them the flood, the locusts, the lice, the frogs, and the blood, as a succession of manifest signs, yet they remained arrogant, and they were those people who were mujrimeen, criminals, polytheists, sinners, etc. Qur'an 7, verse 130 to 133. Almighty Allah also said, but when we removed the punishment from them to a fixed term, which they had to reach, behold, they broke their word. Qur'an 7, verse 135. Moses' story, condensed and Quranic. Pharaoh became ruder and more arrogant. He proclaimed to his people, Pharaoh is the only God. Has he not the kingdom of Egypt and the rivers flowing under it? He declared that Moses was a liar, a magician, and a poor man who did not even wear even one bracelet of gold. Almighty Allah declared, and indeed we did send Moses with our ayat, proofs, evidences, verses, lessons, signs, revelations, etc., to Pharaoh and his chiefs, inviting them to Allah's religion of Islam. He said, verily, I am a messenger of the Lord of the Alameen, mankind, jinn, and all that exists. But when he came to them with our ayat, behold, they laughed at them, and not an ayah we showed them, but it was greater than its fellow, and we seized them with torment in order that they might turn from their polytheism to Allah's religion, Islamic monotheism. And they said to Moses, O you sorcerer, invoke your Lord for us, according to what he has covenanted with you. Verily, we shall guide ourselves right. But when we removed the torment from them, behold, they broke their covenant, that they will believe if we remove the torment from them. And Pharaoh proclaimed among his people, saying, O my people, is it not mine, the dominion of Egypt, and the rivers flowing underneath me? See you not then, am I not the better than this one, Moses, and who is Machin, has no honour nor any respect, and is weak and despicable, and can scarcely express himself clearly? Why then are not golden bracelets bestowed on him, or angels sent along with him? Thus he, Pharaoh, befooled and misled his people, and they obeyed him. Verily, they were fasiqeen, rebellious, disobedient to Allah. So when they angered us, we punished them and drowned them all, and we made them a precedent as a lesson for those coming after them, and an example to later generations. Qur'an 43, verse 46 to 56. Pharaoh and his army perish. Moses allowed to leave Egypt. It appeared that Pharaoh would not believe in Moses' message, nor would he stop the torture of the children of Israel. Therefore, Moses prayed to his Lord thus, Our Lord, you have indeed bestowed on Pharaoh and his chiefs splendor and wealth in the life of this world. Our Lord, that they may lead men astray from your path. Our Lord, destroy their wealth and harden their hearts, so that they will not believe until they see the painful torment. Allah said, Verily, the invocation of you both is accepted, so you keep to the straight way. Keep on doing good deeds and preaching Allah's message with patience, and follow not the path of those who know not the truth, to believe in the oneness of Allah, and also to believe in the reward of Allah, paradise, etc. Qur'an 10, verse 88 to 89. Allah inspired Moses to conduct his people of Egypt, but only a few of his people believed in his message. Allah revealed, but none believed in Moses except the offspring of his people, because of the fear of Pharaoh and his chiefs, lest they should persecute them. And verily, Pharaoh was an arrogant tyrant on the earth, and he was indeed one of the musrifin, polytheists, sinners and transgressors, those who give up the truth and follow the evil and commit all kinds of great sins. And Moses said, O my people, if you have believed in Allah, then put your trust in Him, if you are Muslims, those who submit to Allah's will. They said, In Allah we put our trust. Our Lord, make us not a trial for the folk who are zalimeen, polytheists and wrongdoing. Do not make them overpower us, and save us by your mercy from the disbelieving folk. Qur'an 10 verse 83 to 86. Almighty Allah decided to put an end to Pharaoh's crimes after he had given him several chances. Allah commanded Moses to depart, and the children of Israel received a reluctant permission from the Pharaoh to go out of the city for the feast. They prepared themselves to leave Egypt. This later became known as Exodus. They carried with them their jewels and borrowed a lot of jewels from the Egyptians. The Pharaoh learns of the believers' escape. In the darkness of night, Moses led his people towards the Red Sea, and in the morning they reached the beach. By then, Pharaoh was aware of their departure, so he mobilized a huge army to pursue them. The parting of the Red Sea. The children of Israel soon became agitated, and Joshua, Yusha ibn Nun, exclaimed, In front of us is this impassable barrier, the sea, and behind us the enemy. Surely death cannot be avoided. Moses replied that he would wait for further guidance from Allah. These words filled them with some hope, but man is always impatient for results. They were willing to surrender themselves back into slavery. At that moment, Allah revealed to Moses, Smite the sea with your staff. Moses did as he was commanded. The fierce wind blew, the sun shone brightly, and in a flash the sea parted, the crests of the waves standing like mountains on each side. Moses led his people across. This miracle proved Moses' oft-repeated claim, Verily, my Lord is with me. As they looked back, they saw Pharaoh and his army approaching, about to take the very path which had opened up for them. In great fear and panic, they pleaded with Moses to ask Allah to close the sea. However, Allah commanded Moses not to smite the sea with his staff again, for Allah's decree was already in action. The death of the Pharaoh. Pharaoh and his army had seen the miracle, how the sea had parted, but being the pretender that he was, Pharaoh turned to his men and proclaimed, Look, the sea has opened at my command, so that I may follow these rebels and arrest them. They rushed across the parted waters, and when they were midway, Allah commanded the sea to return to its former state. Terror-stricken Pharaoh, realizing his end had come, declared out of fear, I believe that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah, in whom the children of Israel believe, and I am those who surrender to Him. But Allah did not accept this declaration from the tyrant, and the waters closed over him, drowning him and his entire army. Almighty Allah narrated, And when we inspired Moses, saying, Take away my slaves by night, verily you will be pursued. Then Pharaoh sent callers to all the cities, saying, Verily, these indeed are but a small band, and verily they have done what has enraged us, but we are host, all assembled, amply forewarned. So we expelled them from the gardens and springs, treasures, and every kind of honourable place. Thus we turned them, Pharaoh's people, out, and we caused the children of Israel to inherit them. So they pursued them at sunrise. So when the two hosts saw each other, the people of Moses said, "We are sure to be overtaken." Moses said, "Nay, verily, with me is my Lord, he will guide me." Then we inspired Moses, saying, "Strike the sea with your stick." And it parted, and each separate part of that seawater became like the huge firm mass of a mountain. Then we brought near the others, Pharaoh's party, to that place, and we saved Moses and all those with him. Then we drowned the others. Verily, in this is indeed a sign or a proof, yet most of them are not believers. And verily, your Lord, he is truly the Almighty, the most merciful. Qur'an 26, verse 52 to 68. Moses' people escape and Pharaoh's death. Qur'anic. In another surah, Almighty Allah narrated, "And we took the children of Israel across the sea, and Pharaoh with his hosts followed them in oppression and enmity, till when drowning overtook him, he said, I believe that La ilaha illa huwa, none has the right to be worshipped but he in whom the children of Israel believe, and I am one of the Muslims, those who submit to Allah's will. Now you believe, while you refused to believe before, and you are one of the mufsideen, evildoers, corrupts, etc. So this day we shall deliver your dead body out from the sea, that you may be a sign to those who come after you. And verily, many among mankind are heedless to our ayah." Qur'an 10, verse 90 to 92. The curtain fell on Pharaoh's tyranny, and the waves threw his corpse up to the western seashore. The Egyptians saw him and knew that their God, whom they had worshipped and obeyed, were mere slaves who could not keep death away from their own necks. Moses' people desire an idol. In spite of Pharaoh's death, he left a bad influence on the souls of the children of Israel. It was difficult for the years of oppression and intense humility to pass easily. He had made them accustomed to humbling themselves and submitting to someone other than Allah. He had so suppressed their souls and spoiled their nature that they began to torture Moses out of ignorance and obstinacy. The miracle of the parting of the sea was still fresh in their minds. Damp sea sands were still stuck on their souls when they passed by a people worshipping idols. Instead of manifesting their indignation at the idolater's oppression of the intellect by celebrating the praises of Allah for his guidance, they looked to Moses for him to specify a God for them to worship as those other people did. They were jealous of the other people and their idols, and they desired the same. They missed the ancient idolatry which they had lived with during the reign of Pharaoh. Moses' people desire an idol. Qur'anic. Allah the Exalted revealed, "And we brought the children of Israel with safety across the sea, and they came upon a people devoted to some of their idols in worship. They said, O Moses, make for us an ilahan, a god, as they have gods. He said, Verily, you are a people who know not the majesty and greatness of Allah and what is obligatory upon you, i.e., to worship none but Allah alone, the one and the only God of all that exists." Moses added, "Verily, these people will be destroyed for that which they are engaged in, idol worship, and all that they are doing is in vain." He said, "Shall I seek for you an ilahan, a god, other than Allah, which he has given you superiority over the alameen? And remember when we rescued you from Pharaoh's people who were afflicting you with the worst torment, killing your sons and letting your women live, and in that was a great trial from your Lord." Qur'an 7 verse 138 to 141. The favours of Allah on Moses' people. The children of Israel were favoured with Allah's grace and bounty. they were saved from oppression and had witnessed the drowning of their cruel ruler Pharaoh. When they needed water in the dry land, Allah commanded Moses to strike a rock, which parted and sent forth 12 springs of water for the 12 different tribes, so that they need not dispute over a shortage of water. Allah also kept the skies cloudy to protect them from the scorching sun. To relieve their hunger, manna, the dried exegete of certain plants, and quail were provided for them. In spite of Allah's generosity, the mean-spirited ones began to stir Moses' people to object that they were disgusted with this food. They desired onions, garlic, beans, and lentils, which were traditional Egyptian foods. That is why the children of Israel asked Moses to pray to Allah to make the earth produce these foods. Moses again admonished them for oppressing themselves and for their desire to return to a life of humiliation in Egypt. He also pointed out that they were ungrateful for the best and most abundant food. They wanted the worst instead of the best. Allah's favours on Moses' people. Qur'anic. Allah the Exalted said, "Remember when Moses asked for water for his people? We said, strike the stone with your stick. Then gushed forth therefrom 12 springs. Each group of people knew its own place for water. Eat and drink of that which Allah has provided, and do not act corruptly, making mischief on the earth. And remember when you said, O Moses, we cannot endure one kind of food, so invoke your Lord to bring forth for us of what the earth grows, its herbs, its cucumbers, its fum, wheat or garlic, its lentils, and its onions. He said, would you exchange that which is better for that which is lower? Go you down to any town, and you shall find what you want. Qur'an 2, verse 60 to 61. The cowardice of Moses' people. Allah had also directed Moses to take them to the promised land, Palestine, which had been promised to Abraham as a land in which the pious and Allah-fearing of his offspring would live and uphold Allah's law. The children of Israel were an ungrateful people. In spite of all Allah's favours, they could not stay away from evil and continued to reject Allah's laws. When Moses ordered them to conquer the town of the Canaanites, the Hittites, their enemies who had hounded them, the children of Israel were cowardly and made excuses. O Moses, a great people dwell therein. We shall not go in unless they leave. Ancient books tell us that they were 600,000 men. Moses did not find among them but 2 men who were ready to fight. These 2 said to the people, once we enter through the door, Allah will make us victorious. However, all of the children of Israel were an incarnation of cowardice and quivered from therein. That is it for today. Jazakallah khair for listening.